If you're a Muslim in the UK and you plan on going to university, but student finance is an issue, you want to avoid it for interest reasons and not getting into debt or whatever it is, then there's a possible solution for you. So make sure you stick to the end to find out what it is and how exactly you can benefit. So what's the problem with traditional student loans? Well, for many years in the UK, Muslims and other people who follow certain beliefs or have certain principles don't really want to get into debt, especially when there's so much interest involved. But when it comes to an education and stopping you from progressing, say in your career or just in life in general, then sometimes you have to go against your morals or your principles or your beliefs just so you can make something of yourself. And we're not always comfortable with that. And that's been the problem with student loans in the UK, where interest was basically the entire system. You borrow money and you pay back with interest because they know that there's a demand for it. They know that people will buy it no matter what. People will borrow from them no matter what because people want a degree. Whereas now, with apprenticeships increasing and various possibilities outside of getting a degree or the traditional method of getting a degree, it could be possible that the government is a little scared, maybe, or whatever reason there is, but they have decided to create a sort of alternative to student finance, hence the name. And sort of the way it works is, so I've got it up here on the government website. It says, the new finance system will be certified as being Sharia-compliant. It will use the Islamic finance principle of Takaful to provide a form of group-based mutual support. And alternative student finance will be available for any undergraduate students who are eligible. So the students apply for an alternative payment for both their tuition fees and living costs. So we know there's currently with the student finance. I'm not fully aware because I'm not on it. With the apprenticeship scheme, alhamdulillah, I don't need to go down the route. But from what I understand is, you pay your 9.25 grand, which is going to increase anyways, towards tuition, and then you borrow some more for your living costs, your maintenance, and all that stuff as well. So the students will still apply for both, and this is instead of an interest-bearing loan, and they will apply in the same way as a traditional student loan. So this is all legit. It is done from the Student Finance England. It's on the government website, and there's no third parties or anything like that. So it continues, after they leave their studies, the students will repay contributions. Again, same as right now, where if you're working, it'll just come out your paycheck. The contributions are then ring-fenced to help future students. This means that funds are used only for providing alternative student finance. Students applying for support via alternative student finance will not suffer any detriment nor experience any advantage through choosing to access student support via this route. So essentially, what happens is, and the website explains a bit more, but you borrow and you pay back with a fee. So it won't be interest. You'll pay a fixed fee at the end of it, which again, it sort of follows the way mortgages are in this country, the Islamic mortgage. You pay a fixed fee, which is based on interest calculations in however many years. Islamically, it can be argued that it's above board in the sense that you're not actually paying interest. It's a fixed fee that you've known from before, and there's no doubt about what it'll look like or if it changes. So when you pay that back, that fee and any contributions made will sort of go into a pot, which they can hand out to other students. And then they've also mentioned that anyone who goes for ASF, as well as the traditional or conventional student finance, there won't be any difference in their applications or anything like that. So just to give you that idea that just because you choose a certain path doesn't mean you're now at a disadvantage. So what exactly does Takaful mean, and what is that method? Takaful is basically a mutual fund where there's cooperation and essentially everyone helps one another. So the first step is contribution to a fund. So whoever's taking part, for example, the students in this case, they would borrow money from a pot or a collective fund, and this would go towards the education, the degree. They'll get the degree, they'll graduate, and they'll get a job. And from that job, the same way regular student finance works, a portion of that will be paid back to the fund. And this will avoid any fixed interest rates or anything like that. And then from that fund, the cycle will start again. So that fund will increase over time due to the fees that they charge, and essentially more students in the future can benefit from it. So that's sort of a very brief overview of how Takaful works and the ASF method that they have in mind, but hopefully it makes a bit more sense in sort of the system and what they're thinking of. So why is ASF important, or this whole concept important? Well, I mentioned it at the beginning, but the idea of getting a degree is very important for most people because it helps us get a job, it helps with our career, and there's a lot to it. But it always conflicts with someone's beliefs, whether religious or moral, and people don't always want to do that, or they don't feel comfortable doing that. But they've just had to put up with it, or they've had to struggle through it because they've had to think about the future. So when this has come about, it's given people access to higher education without having to feel uncomfortable, without having to pass on their beliefs, and without having to go against their principles. So essentially, it's become more inclusive. It's become adapted to suit everyone's needs. So now people who are more than happy with going through the traditional route, that's up to them. And anyone who doesn't feel comfortable going through that route, they've got ASF that they can work toward, or they can go through. So what's the catch? As always, there is a catch. In the case of ASF, it's not yet developed, or it's not complete. The idea is there, it's been published, and they are going to go through with it. From what I can see, there isn't a fixed date on when they're planning to start it, but should be in the next few years. I think next 2 or 3 years, maybe a bit longer. I don't know. Then there's also the Sharia compliancy side, where they'll have to organize with scholars, trusted scholars, and other experts within the field, but from an Islamic perspective, to make sure everything's done correctly, everything's according to how Sharia says, as well as being compliant for the government and its rules and fundings. For those currently in education, or currently or planning on going to uni soon, then it might not be beneficial for you currently, but definitely in the next few years, where we can see this progress, we can see more options coming up for us. Something to definitely look out for. But again, in terms of the exact Sharia principles that it follows and the rules and guidelines, we're not sure yet. We don't know who the scholars are. Nothing like that's been mentioned. We don't know what madhab they're going to follow, or what principle they're going to follow, or anything like that. So again, something to look out for, something to do more research on, and something to definitely ask your local scholars, your local muftis, if they know anything about it, if they've researched into it, their opinions on it. But there's that hope that hopefully we as Muslims have an option for us now, where we don't have to feel bad, where we're not constantly thinking that we're falling into sin because of pursuing a degree, or whatever it is. Hopefully this was beneficial to you guys. Make sure you do your research, and this is not any financial advice or anything. It's just so you know what's out there and you can potentially benefit from it as well. I'll leave it at that. Assalamu alaikum.